So summer has gone and we're into late autumn now. Late autumn fishing can be tricky or it can be a bonanza, and you won't know until you get here. Sometimes the fish can really get their heads down and have a good old feed before winter really kicks in. And other times they can just shut up shop early November and that's it, you're done. And you won't know until you try. This particular water it's shy of 38 acres. Has an average depth of about 20 odd foot, and it's no easy water because it's a very low stock density water, so it makes fishing very slow and very hard. During the summer I've been sort of baiting fairly steadily with trigger, supplemented with big fish mix and trigger ice. I kind of like sort of adding extra baits of different types into the mix to give fish choice. But my mainstay has been trigger. You can use trigger all the way through into the deepest part and the coldest part of winter, and it will catch you loads of fish. Sometimes bird food's been a looser texture, they'll pump out their attractors quicker, they'll sometimes be a little bit more quick to get a bite, especially in cold water conditions, and they're just an all-round great winter bait, so I want to be sort of winter ready with my bait. Come August, I started trickling in 2 other baits in the mix. I was adding what is now one of our new ranges called Gold, which is available from the Nutrabaits website as an exclusive. It's an all year round bait with the emphasis being on a winter bait. It is incredible. Now Gold is one of those baits that it's going to really make a mark within Nutrabaits. It's going to catch an awful lot of fish. It's very, very old school. It has the base mix of Enovite Gold, which is one of my favourite bird food baits ever. And there's a lot of other goodies that have been added to that, including things like sweet kajausa and betaine and molasses and Nutramino. Well, this particular flavour that they have in the Gold range is a flavour that's been crafted in-house. It's a blend that's been made by the lads, and they've created something really, really special with this. It's kind of got that Scopexy, burnt toffee, caramelly back note. There's something very old school that we all know and recognise. Now I have the flavour neat, and when you taste it on the tongue, it's very sweet. there's no chemical back note, and it's a real beautiful taste profile to it. And I reckon you could use this in fairly high levels within the bait and get away with it. It wouldn't blow the bait. So I've been using the gold range in my mix. In sort of August, September, I was heavily putting that in with the trigger and other baits to kind of get the fish switched onto it. The other bait I'm actually using on this trip, and I have been applying the same amount of time as the gold, is our new code, which will be released, I think it's next March. Now, code is one of our secret range, and it's been kept very hush-hush, so I can't really say too much more about it, but it's going to be an outstanding addition to the range, and it's going to catch an awful lot of fish, and it's one of my favourites. I've been taking my bait crusher, and I've been putting in my trigger, my code, and my gold all into the mix, and I've been crushing that up real fine. Along with the crushed boilies, I've been in another bucket putting a little bit of lake water, adding trigger liquid boosters. Now, I've been pouring a little bit in, mixing it well up, and then I've been adding a little bit of carpet feed. Now, carpet feed is one of my favourite. Anybody knows me, I use carpet feed pretty much everywhere. It catches fish, it gets them really stimulated. It's not a ground bait, but it acts like a ground bait. And it just coats everything with all of these bits and particles of food. There's no cereal in it like a ground bait, and it's a really great way of, as I say, just pumping attraction into the water column without actually feeding the carp too much. So once the carpet feed has sucked up all those liquid attractors and it's still quite wet, I add in all the chopped up boilies from the boilie crusher. I mix that really well round. I add a little bit of hemp, and that's it. I wouldn't really add to that now. That's going to, you know, do the job. There's little bits of food in the mix that will fall hard on the bottom and will sort of feed the fish. The rest is going to do the job of clouding up and pumping that attractiveness into the water. So that's my main mix. Now, also, because it's a deep lake, I'm obviously using a bait boat here, and I'm going to get to that in a second. One of the things I'm doing as well is I'm putting on a PVA bag. Now, I'm putting pure pellets in that. I'm using the trigger ice in 2mm and 8mm trigger pellets. But I'm treating them first before I put them in the PVA bag, and how I treat them is we have a new liquid that's going to be launched again in the spring of next year. Now, this liquid is an amino-based liquid. It can be used as a glug, it can be used as a dip, it can be used as a booster, it can be used in a bait, on a bait, around a bait. Doesn't matter what way you want to do it, pour it on particles. This thing is going to really be a big, huge winner. And it's very interesting. Now, as I said, it's not launched until next year, so I don't want to say too much about it. But I've been testing it out now and using it for a glug on my gold boilies, and I've also added a little bit of the neat gold flavour on top of that to shake around the pot and soak the pop-ups in. But this special liquid I've been using on my pellet, and I've been pouring a bit of this liquid over them and letting it soak in, and I've been using that in PVA bags. Now, why I'm using a PVA bag, this is a deep lake, so if I'm using anything that's kind of ground baity, crummy, with small particles, there's a good undertow, and it's a deep lake. I'm fishing in anywhere between 20 and 23 feet of water where I am. So it's a long way down, and it can spread out over a very large distance, and that can work against you this time of year. So I don't mind a bit of spread, but I want to have something amplifying my hook bait, and by using a little PVA bag with the pellets, it's going down and sitting right next to the hook bait, which is exactly what I'm looking for. And the rest of the bait, if it spreads out a little bit, won't do me any harm. The lake is very fishless, as I said, and the fish don't really show here much either. So it can be very hit and miss as to where the fish are. But one thing that is really noticeable is that when you take out the echo sounder, is how flat the bottom is. It's completely a bowl. But every now and again you'll see pockets of shellfish, and that's what I've been targeting. Personally, I feel with a lot of cormorant activity on this lake, there are mink here as well. I think a lot of the fish tend to, kind of gather up together for safety, and I think the carp will utilise that at some stage. And so I've been trying to find the areas in the lake where the fish are shoaling up with the echo sounder and dropping my baits onto that area. Maybe the carp will kind of follow the shoal fish a little bit and use their numbers to protect themselves. Whether my thinking's correct or not, the second night I was here, I found a spot straight out from me in about 23 foot of water. There was a massive shoal of fish, and I dropped my baits right on top of it. 9 o'clock that evening, I had a take of sorts, and I managed to nab a 6-pound fish, which isn't exactly one of the big ones in here, obviously. But do you know what? Carp are carp to me. I'm not an elitist. I don't care about their size. I just love all carp. So I was happy out. It saves a blank, especially this time of year. I think there may be something to what I'm working off. If the place is devoid of fish, and yet there's an area where there's lots of bait fish hanging around, carp are kind of maybe going to sit in with them for protection, for company. I don't know what it is, but look, it certainly worked the other night, and I've been spending time with the echo sounder trying to locate, in what is a very barren piece of water, any fish pockets, and putting my rods on them. But the problem is those fish shoals move around quite a bit, so where you drop a bait now, in 5 hours from now, those shoals could have moved on. Come winter, when we're into sort of January, February and March, early March, I think this technique is going to really come alive, where if you can locate where the shoals are sitting, they'll not really move too much unless they're really super harassed by cormorants or whatever. They'll tend to sit there for, days, weeks in the same spot. They won't go too far. So it could be a really effective method to nabbing fish. I think the secret this time of year is just do it. The weather is awful. You tend to be more bivvy bound than out of it, but the results can be there if you're lucky. And as they always say, if you're not in it, you can't win it.